My college roommate tried to break me by taking my sister hostage, so I made sure she paid the ultimate price. Now, 5 years later, she's at her parole hearing, promising this isn't over. Before college started, I had this dream where I'd be like the main character of those movies you always see on Netflix, finally get my first boyfriend, have a huge social life, have a bunch of parties with my rich friends on yachts, and my roommate Bella was the first introduction to my disappointment. At first, she was kind. Her wardrobe was all pink, soft brunette hair, always smelled nice, never gave me any reason why I shouldn't trust her. And after dozens of late-night deep conversations, she had a childhood so traumatizing that I can't even describe it without tearing up. And because of it, she just wanted to be kind to others. So after the first month, when she couldn't even get out of bed after her boyfriend broke up with her, all I wanted was to do everything I could to make things easier for her. I revoked the initial rule we had agreed on of one of us needing to tidy the entire room every day, and told her I would cover it. For weeks, I did all her grocery shopping. I even went to classes I didn't even take just to write notes on what she had missed. It was so much work that I even had to get my younger sister to help out, because I figured investing into our friendship meant investing into a lifelong friendship, something I so desperately wanted. But around Christmas break, things took a turn. She broke the rules and bought a ginger emotional support cat. Well, I love cats, so I had no issue with this. If anything, I supported it. But every morning I would wake up to the smell of rotten milk because Bella refused to buy a litter box, so the cat would pee all over my clothes. After a few weeks, I told Bella that if she didn't start taking care of it, I would report the cat to the RA. So for a while, she actually started getting her act together. No more moldy coffee left in cups beside her bed. No more being a full-time maid. But then came my breaking point, because when I came back from Christmas break, I couldn't even open the door because of how much BS covered the entire floor. And when I finally made it in, I vomited in my mouth. On the walls was cat pee that Bella had never cleaned. My bed was covered in period stains that weren't mine, and a boy I didn't recognize was lying right beside her smoking a cigarette. Bella, what the actual F? Shush, she interrupted. The cat is sleeping. Rage boiled my blood. When she wasn't looking, I took a photo of the entire room, cropping out the cat because I wanted to keep her LOL, and sent it to the housing office, practically begging to be relocated. But they just replied with a, "Sorry, housing is full." That's when I knew I had to take matters into my own hands. I decided to take care of the cat because there were only a few months left, and I just wanted to make sure she was okay. I called the cat Miso and bought her kitty litter. I made sure the room was clean, and every night Miso would crawl onto my chest to purr and stroke her face against mine. Ugh, so cute. I love her. So we were in the middle of our little oxytocin party when Bella looked over. What the F, I didn't know it could do that, referring to the cat. I nodded enthusiastically. Right, she's so cute. Here, let me bring her over. I then carried Miso over to Bella, expecting her to purr like she does with me. Instead, she immediately got her claws out and sprinted under my bed. It took everything in me to stop myself from bursting out laughing. Bella's face turned completely red. What the F? Shush! This time I was the one to interrupt her. You're going to scare Miso. That night I went to bed with a huge smile on my face. But when I woke up to feed Miso, she was gone. I shook Bella awake, and she turned over with a chaotic smile plastered on her face. Where's Miso? I asked, voice shaking. Oh, I put her down, she said with a smile. Panic ran through my body, and she continued. After all, there was clearly something wrong with her, because what kind of pet doesn't like their owner? I walked out, not wanting her to see me cry. I was ready to play the long game and get my hands dirty, literally. For every day until our lease ran out in June, I collected her trash bags and stored them in my sister's car that she never used. At the end of June, I told her that if she wanted her parents to come over, I would be sure to clean the entire room for her, and that crusty betch fell for it. Then came the big day. As she left to collect her parents from the airport, I filled the entire room with her old sanitary pads and tampons, the ones I had collected from our bin, all over her bed, the drawers, and the floor. The entire room smelled like fish carcasses that had been left in the sun for 10 years. When her parents came in, I hid in the maintenance closet. I didn't get to see their reactions, but I heard it. Her mom screamed at the top of her lungs. The dad gasped so hard I thought he was going to choke. I heard the door slam as they walked back out. I never saw Bella again, because her parents had deemed her as unfit to live alone and pulled her out of Yale. I thought that was that. Like a ding-dong the witch is dead moment, lol. But I was wrong, because 3 days later I got a call. My sister was missing. My hands shook as I held the phone. My mom was sobbing on the other end. She kept saying my sister Victoria never came home from her shift at the bookstore. I hung up and immediately called Victoria's phone, straight to voicemail. I tried again. Nothing. My brain went into overdrive. Victoria had been helping me deal with Bella's mess for months. She knew everything. She'd seen everything. And now she was gone. I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't a coincidence. I grabbed my laptop and checked Bella's Instagram. Her account was still active. The most recent post was from yesterday. Just a photo of a coffee cup with the caption, "New Beginnings." Nothing suspicious, but something felt off. I scrolled through her stories. Nothing there either. Then I checked her Twitter. Private. Her Facebook was deactivated. I needed to think. I called my mom back and told her I was coming home. The drive took 3 hours but felt like 10. My mind kept racing through every possibility. What if Bella did something? What if she hurt Victoria? But that seemed crazy. Bella was manipulative and gross but not violent, right? When I got home, my parents were a wreck. The police were already there, their uniforms making everything feel more real and terrifying. They asked me a bunch of questions about Victoria's friends and habits. I didn't mention Bella. Not yet. I needed to be sure first. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept checking my phone hoping Victoria would text. Around 3 a.m., I got a DM on Instagram from Bella. My heart stopped. I opened it with trembling fingers. "Hey girl, heard about your sister. That's so scary. Hope she's okay." The message seemed normal. Too normal. I didn't respond. The next morning, I drove back back to campus. I needed to talk to people who knew Bella, maybe find out where she went after her parents pulled her out. I started with our RA, Janet. She told me Bella's parents came and packed up all her stuff the same day. They seemed really angry and wouldn't even look Janet in the eye. Janet didn't know where they took her. Next, I talked to some girls from our floor. Most of them avoided Bella anyway. But one girl, Diana, mentioned something interesting. She said she saw Bella talking to some guy in a van the night before she left. The guy looked sketchy, wearing all black with a baseball cap pulled low. Diana thought maybe Bella was buying substances or something. This was getting weirder by the minute. I decided to text Bella back. I kept it casual, asked her how she was doing, where she ended up. She responded within minutes, said she was staying with her parents in Connecticut, taking a gap year to figure things out. She asked about Victoria again, said she saw a post from my mom on Facebook about her being missing. I played along, told her we were all worried sick. Then Bella said something that made my blood run cold. She mentioned Victoria used to help me clean our room sometimes. How did she know that? I never told her. Victoria only came by when Bella was in class, unless Bella had been watching us somehow. I tried to stay calm, asked Bella if she remembered Victoria at all. She said no, just that I mentioned having a sister who helped out sometimes, but I knew I never told her that. Never. My phone rang. It was my mom. They found Victoria's car. It was parked at a rest stop 2 hours away, but Victoria wasn't there. The police were checking security cameras. I told my mom I'd come back home immediately, but first I had another stop to make. I needed to check something important. I drove straight to Victoria's apartment, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. She lived off campus with 2 other girls in a converted Victorian house near the university district. Maybe they knew something. The building looked peaceful from the outside, painted pale yellow with white trim, but my stomach churned with anxiety as I climbed the creaky wooden steps to their second-floor unit. When I got there, her roommate Gloria opened the door. She looked worried, dark circles under her eyes like she hadn't slept well. Said Victoria had been acting weird the past few days, always checking her phone, looking over her shoulder, jumping at small noises. I asked if I could check Victoria's room. Gloria let me in without hesitation, wringing her hands nervously. Victoria's room was neat as always, her bed perfectly made with the quilt our grandmother had sewn for her 18th birthday. Nothing seemed out of place. Her collection of succulents lined the windowsill in their hand-painted pots. I checked her desk drawers, trying not to disturb the careful organization. Found her planner, the one with the floral cover she'd bought at the start of the semester. Flipped through the recent pages. Most entries were normal stuff. Work shifts at the campus bookstore, study sessions for her online classes, grocery lists with her weird obsession with buying exactly 3 apples every week. But 3 days ago, she'd written something strange in red ink. Just 2 words. She knows. My stomach dropped. I took a photo of the page with shaking hands and kept searching. Under her bed, I found a shoebox. The Nike one from the running shoes I'd bought her for Christmas. Inside were printouts of text messages. Not from Victoria's phone, though. They were screenshots someone had sent her. The messages were between Bella and some guy named Philip. Reading them made me feel sick. Bella was talking about me in the vilest terms, calling me names I'd never repeat, saying I ruined her life, that I deserved to suffer the way she had. Philip kept encouraging her, feeding her anger, telling her to get revenge, saying I had it coming. The last message was from 4 days ago. Bella wrote, "I know exactly how to hurt her." Philip responded, "Through the sister?" Bella's reply was just a smiley face emoji. That simple yellow face felt more menacing than any threat could have. I stuffed the papers in my bag and ran out, nearly tripping over Victoria's laundry basket in my haste. Called my mom on the way to the car, told her I might have a lead. She said the police found something on the security cameras from the parking garage. A van pulling up next to Victoria's car, someone getting out. But the angle was bad. The camera old and grainy. They couldn't see faces. Just that Victoria got in the van willingly, like she knew the person. No signs of struggle or force. I hung up and called Bella. She didn't answer. I texted her asking if we could talk. Said I was scared and needed a friend. Playing into her ego usually worked. She called back within 10 minutes. Her voice was syrupy sweet, too sweet, like artificial honey. She asked if there were any updates on Victoria. I lied and said no. Then I asked if she was really in Connecticut with her parents. She said yes. Why would I doubt her? I told her I just missed having someone to talk to. She ate it up, started going on about how hard everything had been for her, how her parents were being so controlling, how she just wanted her life back, how unfair it all was. I let her talk while I drove, making sympathetic noises at appropriate intervals. The highway stretched endlessly before me, gray asphalt under gray skies. Then I asked if she knew anyone named Philip. There was a pause, just a second too long, the kind of pause that screams guilt. She said no. Why? I made up some story about Victoria mentioning that name before she disappeared. Bella's voice got weird, higher pitched. Said that was strange. Maybe I should tell the police about this Philip guy. Then she had to go. Her mom was calling her for dinner. The line went dead before I could respond. After we hung up, I pulled over at a rest stop and really looked at those text messages again. The timestamps were all from late at night, always after 2 a.m. I remembered Bella used to stay up super late on her phone, the blue glow visible under her door. I'd assumed she was texting her ex or scrolling social media, but maybe she was planning something else, something darker. I decided to track down this Philip guy. Searched his number on Google. Nothing. Tried Facebook. Found 12 different Philips from our school. Started going through their profiles one by one like a detective in some crime show. Most were clearly not involved. Too young, too old, or had girlfriends who would have noticed late-night texting. But one profile stood out. Philip Chen. He was in Bella's psych class last semester. His profile was mostly private, but his cover photo showed him at some party. And there in the background, barely visible behind a group of red solo cups, was Bella. Same pink sweater she always wore. Same predatory smile. I messaged him. Said I was Bella's old roommate and needed to talk about something important. He read it, but didn't respond. I waited an hour, refreshing obsessively. immediately, then messaged again. This time I mentioned Victoria. He blocked me immediately. That told me everything I needed to know. Innocent people don't block at the mention of a missing person. I drove home through increasing traffic and showed my parents the text messages. My dad wanted to take them straight to the police, but my mom pointed out they didn't prove anything concrete, just that Bella was angry and talking to some guy. We needed more. The police wouldn't act on just this. They were already treating Victoria's case as a probable runaway situation since she got in that van willingly. The detective had used the phrase, left of her own accord, which made me want to scream. That night, I lay in bed thinking, staring at the glow-in-the-dark stars Victoria had helped me put up when we were kids. Bella was smart, manipulative. She wouldn't do anything that could be traced back to her directly. She'd use other people, like Philip, or maybe others. I thought about all those late-night conversations we'd had, all the things I'd told her about my family, about Victoria, how Victoria was anxious about starting college next year, how she trusted people too easily, how she'd do anything to help family. I'd handed Bella a blueprint for manipulating my sister. The next morning, I woke up to a text from an unknown number, just a photo. It was Victoria sitting in what looked like a basement. Concrete walls, single bare bulb overhead. She looked scared but unharmed. The message said, "She's fine, for now. Stop looking for her." I screenshot it immediately and tried calling the number, already disconnected. Of course, I showed my parents. My mom broke down completely, sobbing into my father's shoulder. My dad called the police with shaking hands. They said they'd traced the number but warned us it was probably a burner phone. They upgraded Victoria's case to kidnapping, started asking more questions. I finally told them about Bella, showed them everything. The detective, a tired-looking guy named Walter with coffee stains on his tie, said they'd look into it but needed more evidence to get a warrant or anything. Bureaucracy at its finest. I couldn't just sit around waiting. I went back to campus and started asking around about Philip Chen. Turns out he'd dropped out mid-semester. Mental health issues, supposedly. But his roommate Jose told me something interesting over cheap beer at the campus pub. Philip had been obsessed with some girl who wouldn't date him. Used to talk about her all the time. The roommate couldn't remember her name but said she had brown hair and wore lots of pink. Sound familiar? I tracked down Philip's ex-girlfriend through LinkedIn. Her name was Cheryl. She agreed to meet me at a coffee shop downtown. Told me Philip changed after he met some girl in his psych class. Started staying out all night, getting secretive about his phone. When Cheryl confronted him, he broke up with her via text. Said he'd found someone who understood him. But from what Cheryl could tell, this new girl was just using him, making him do things for her, buy her stuff, drive her places at odd hours. Philip thought they were dating, but Cheryl never saw them together in public. Classic manipulation tactics. I asked if she knew where Philip was now. She said he moved back home with his parents after dropping out, somewhere in New Jersey. She didn't have an address but remembered the town, Ridgewood. I thanked her and left. Googled Philip Chen Ridgewood, New Jersey in the parking lot. Found an address through some sketchy people finder website. It was only 2 hours away. I could be there and back before dinner. I knew I should tell the police. Let them handle it. But what if they didn't act fast enough? What if Bella convinced Philip to do something worse? What if their bureaucratic procedures cost us precious time? I couldn't risk it. I told my parents I was going back to campus to get more of Victoria's things. Instead, I drove to New Jersey, my conscience warring with my desperation the entire way. The house was a normal-looking suburban home, white siding, black shutters, American flag on the porch, 2 cars in the driveway. I parked down the street and watched for a while. Saw an older woman, probably Philip's mom, leave in one of the cars. Waited another 30 minutes. No one else came or went. I walked up and rang the doorbell. No answer. Rang again. Finally heard footsteps. Philip opened the door. He looked terrible. Greasy hair, bloodshot eyes, wearing the same clothes he had on in his Facebook photo from months ago. He tried to slam the door when he saw me, but I stuck my foot in. Told him I knew about Bella, about Victoria. His face went white. He said he didn't know what I was talking about. I showed him the text messages on my phone. His hands started shaking like leaves in a storm. I pushed past him into the house. He didn't try to stop me, just stood there looking like he might puke on his parents' hardwood floors. I asked where Victoria was. He shook his head frantically, said he didn't know. I told him to cut the crap, showed him the photo someone had sent me. He stared at it for a long time. Then he started crying, actually crying, big, ugly sobs, saying Bella made him do it, that she promised they'd be together if he just helped her this one time, that she said she loved him. I asked again where Victoria was. He said Bella had her, wouldn't tell him where, just used his van to pick Victoria up, told Victoria that I was in trouble and needed her help, that I'd been in an accident. Victoria believed it because Bella knew so much about our family, details I'd shared during those late-night talks. Philip drove them somewhere, but Bella made him wait in the van. When she came back, she was alone. Said Victoria was safe and would be fine as long as I backed off. Said it was just temporary. I asked what Bella wanted. Philip laughed bitterly. Said Bella didn't want anything specific. She just wanted to hurt me, make me suffer like she felt I'd made her suffer. The whole thing with her parents finding the room full of used period products had destroyed her relationship with them. They'd put her in therapy, monitored her every move, took away her car, her credit cards, her freedom, and she blamed me for all of it. I recorded our whole conversation on my phone. Philip was too messed up to notice. He kept rambling about how Bella had played him, how she'd pretended to like him just to get him to help, how stupid he felt, how she'd kissed him once and he thought it meant something. I asked if he had any idea where Bella might have taken Victoria. He mentioned Bella talking about some cabin her family owned, somewhere upstate, but he didn't know exactly where. She'd only mentioned it once when talking about family vacations. I left Philip's house and immediately called the detective, played him the recording. He said it was enough to bring Philip in for questioning, maybe enough to get a warrant for Bella's parents' place. I drove home feeling a mix of hope and dread. We were getting closer, but Victoria was still missing, still in danger, still with Bella. When I got home, there was another message, this time on Instagram, from Bella's account. It was a video. Victoria was sitting in what looked like a small room. Wooden walls. Maybe that cabin Philip mentioned. Bella's voice came from behind the camera. She wasn't showing her face. She told Victoria to tell me she was okay. Victoria looked at the camera and said she was fine, that Bella was taking care of her, but her eyes were terrified. I could see her hands shaking slightly. The video ended with Bella saying I had two choices. I could leave her alone forever, never mention her name again, delete all evidence of what happened between us, pretend we'd never met, or Victoria would stay in that cabin indefinitely. She'd be fed and safe, but I'd never see her again. I had 24 hours to decide. The screen went black. I showed my parents and the detective. Walter said they were working on getting Bella's parents to cooperate, but these things took time. Warrants, judges, legal procedures, time we didn't have. My mom was hysterical. My dad kept pacing, wearing a path in our living room carpet. I felt numb. This was all my fault. My stupid revenge plan had put Victoria in danger. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about those conversations with Bella. All the things she'd told me about her traumatic childhood, her mother's coldness, her father's absence. Was any of it real, or had she been manipulating me from day one? I thought about her parents' reaction to the room. Their shock had seemed genuine. Maybe they really didn't know who their daughter was. Maybe none of us did. I decided to take a risk. I found Bella's mom on Facebook, Margaret Williams. Her profile was pretty locked down, but I could see she worked at a dental office. I messaged her, said I was Bella's former roommate and that it was urgent. She read it, but didn't respond. I waited an hour, then called the dental office, asked for Margaret. The receptionist said she wasn't in today. Family emergency. That had to mean something. That gave me hope. Maybe the police had already contacted them. Maybe they were cooperating. I refreshed my phone obsessively, waiting for updates. Finally, around midnight, Detective Walter called. They'd executed a warrant at Bella's parents' house. Bella wasn't there, but they found something interesting. A property deed for a cabin in the Adirondacks, inherited from Bella's grandmother. The parents claimed they didn't know Bella even had access to it. They thought it had been sold years ago. The police were heading there now. It would take them 3 hours. Walter told us to stay put, let them handle it. But I couldn't. Victoria was my sister. This was my mess. I told my parents I was going to try to sleep. Instead, I snuck out and started driving north. The roads were empty, dark, endless. I knew it was stupid, dangerous. But I kept thinking about Victoria alone with Bella, scared, confused, not understanding why this was happening to her. I pushed my old Honda as fast as it would go. Used Google Maps to find the address from the property deed. It was in the middle of nowhere. Perfect place to hide someone. About an hour into the drive, Bella called me. I almost didn't answer. Then I thought maybe I could keep her talking, distract her until the police arrived. I picked up. She sounded calm, too calm. Asked if I'd made my decision. I told her I needed more time. She laughed, said I always thought I was so smart, always planning and scheming, but I'd never understood the first thing about her. I kept her talking, asked why she was doing this. She went on a rant about how I'd ruined everything, how her parents looked at her differently now, how they'd never trust her again, how she'd had to defer Yale for a year, all because I couldn't just be a normal roommate. I wanted to scream that she'd brought it on herself by being disgusting and cruel, but I bit my tongue, agreed with her, said I was sorry, that I'd overreacted. She seemed surprised by my apology. Her voice softened slightly. She started talking about how things could have been different, how we could have been real friends if I'd just accepted her as she was. I made sympathetic noises while checking my GPS, still 2 hours from the cabin. I asked about Victoria, if she was really okay. Bella said Victoria was fine, just scared, that she actually felt bad about involving her, but it was the only way to make me understand how it felt to lose someone important. We talked for another 20 minutes. I let her vent about her parents, her therapy, her ruined reputation, agreed with everything she said, told her she deserved better. By the end, she almost sounded like the old Bella, the one I'd thought was my friend. She said maybe we could work something out. Maybe Victoria could come home if I promised to make things right. I said I'd do anything. Then I heard sirens in the background of her call. Bella cursed, asked if I'd called the cops. I said no, which was technically true. She hung up. I pressed harder on the gas. If the police were there, I needed to be there too. Make sure Victoria was safe. I got to the cabin just as the sun was coming up. Police cars everywhere, lights flashing. I parked and ran toward the scene. An officer tried to stop me, but I screamed that my sister was in there. Detective Walter appeared and grabbed my arm, told me Victoria was safe. They'd found her locked in a back room, scared, but unharmed. Bella had tried to run when she heard the sirens, but they caught her. I saw Victoria wrapped in a blanket sitting in the back of an ambulance. Ran to her and hugged her so tight. She was crying, kept saying she was sorry, that Bella had told her I was hurt and needed help, that she'd been so stupid to believe it. I told her it wasn't her fault. None of it was her fault. Then I saw Bella. She was in handcuffs being led to a police car. She looked small, defeated, nothing like the girl who'd terrorized me for months. Our eyes met. For a second, I saw something like regret flash across her face. Then it was gone, replaced by that same chaotic smile she'd worn when she told me about Miso. She mouthed something at me, looked like, "This isn't over." Then the officer pushed her head down and guided her into the car. The next few hours were a blur. Statements at the police station, Victoria getting checked at the hospital, my parents arriving and crying with relief. Detective Walter explained that Bella would be charged with kidnapping, false imprisonment, and a bunch of other things. Philip was cooperating fully in exchange for a plea deal. Turns out he'd kept all his text exchanges with Bella, every twisted plan she'd made. We went home exhausted but grateful. Victoria was quiet. The experience had shaken her badly. She kept apologizing for trusting Bella, for not being more careful. I told her again and again it wasn't her fault, that Bella was a master manipulator, that she'd fooled me for months too. Over the next few days, more information came out. The police had found journals in Bella's room at her parents' house, detailed plans for psychological torture she'd wanted to inflict on me, lists of my fears and insecurities she'd gathered during our late-night talks, notes about Victoria's schedule and habits. It was terrifying crying seeing how calculated everything had been. Bella's parents reached out through their lawyer. They wanted to apologize, said they'd had no idea their daughter was capable of something like this. They offered to pay for therapy for Victoria. We accepted. Victoria needed help processing what had happened. We all did, really. Philip's testimony revealed even more disturbing details. Bella had been planning this for months, ever since her parents had pulled her out of school. She'd stalked my social media, figured out Victoria's routines, manipulated Philip into helping by pretending to be interested in him romantically. When he'd started having second thoughts, she'd threatened to tell everyone he was a predator who'd been stalking her. Classic Bella move. The trial prep started a few weeks later. The prosecutor, a woman named Janet who wore the same gray suit every meeting, said we had a solid case. But Bella's family hired some expensive lawyer from the city. He kept filing motions and delays, trying to get evidence thrown out, claiming Bella had mental health issues that affected her judgment. The usual rich people defense tactics. Victoria had to testify about what happened in the cabin. She didn't want to, kept saying she just wanted to forget the whole thing. But Janet explained it was necessary, that without Victoria's testimony, Bella might get a lighter sentence. So Victoria agreed. My brave little sister. I spent hours going through old texts and emails with the prosecutor, finding proof of Bella's manipulation, her lies about the cat, the way she'd slowly isolated me from other people on our floor. Janet said it painted a clear picture of escalating behavior, but Bella's lawyer kept arguing she was just a troubled young woman who made bad choices, not a criminal mastermind. Then something weird happened. I got a letter, actual snail mail, no return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper, just one line typed in the middle. She's not done with you. My hands shook as I showed it to my parents. We took it to the police immediately. They dusted it for prints. Nothing. Checked the postmark. Mailed from Connecticut, where Bella's parents lived. Detective Walter increased patrols around our house, told us to vary our routines, be extra careful, but I couldn't shake the feeling we were missing something. Bella was too smart to send threatening letters while awaiting trial, unless she wanted us to think she sent it, unless it was another manipulation. I started digging into Bella's past, called some girls from her high school, found them through Facebook. Most wouldn't talk to me, but one, Maria, had stories, said Bella had done similar things before, targeted girls she felt had wronged her, made their lives hell through elaborate schemes, but she'd always been careful, never got caught. Her parents always bailed her out or paid people off. Maria told me about a girl named Cynthia who'd been Bella's roommate at summer camp. Bella had convinced the whole cabin that Cynthia was stealing from them, planted evidence, turned everyone against her. Cynthia ended up leaving camp early in tears. Years later, she was still in therapy. Maria gave me Cynthia's number. Cynthia's story was eerily familiar. The initial friendship, the sudden turn, the calculated destruction. She said Bella had seemed to enjoy watching her suffer, would smile whenever Cynthia cried. If she'd be willing to testify about Bella's pattern of behavior, she said yes. She wanted to stop Bella from hurting anyone else. I gave Cynthia's information to Janet. She was thrilled, said it would help establish a pattern of behavior, make it harder for Bella's lawyer to claim this was an isolated incident. We started building a list of Bella's previous victims. The number was staggering. Meanwhile, Victoria was struggling. She'd started having nightmares, would wake up screaming about being trapped. My parents found her a good therapist, Dr. Patricia something. She specialized in trauma. Victoria went twice a week, slowly started to seem more like herself. Then Philip reached out, said he had more information, stuff he hadn't told the police. We met at a diner near campus. He looked better, cleaner, like he was actually showering regularly. He told me Bella had other people helping her, not just him. A whole network of guys she'd manipulated, all thinking they were special, all willing to do anything for her attention. He gave me names: Steven from her psych class, Ryan from the coffee shop where she'd worked briefly, Joshua from her hometown. I wrote them all down. Philip said Bella had them all convinced that I was some monster who'd ruined her life, that helping her get revenge was justified. Some of them might still be loyal to her. I passed this information to Detective Walter. He said they'd look into it, but without evidence of actual crimes, there wasn't much they could do. Just knowing Bella wasn't a crime. Being manipulated wasn't illegal. I wanted to scream at the unfairness of it all. The trial date kept getting pushed back. Bella's lawyer filed motion after motion, claimed they needed more time to prepare, that Bella's mental state required evaluation, that the evidence was prejudiced. Janet told us this was normal, that we just had to be patient. But patience was hard when we were all looking over our shoulders. Then Victoria disappeared again, just for a few hours. But those were the longest hours of my life. She'd gone to the library to study, didn't answer her phone, wasn't at any of her usual spots. We were about to call the police when she walked in the door, said her phone had died and she'd lost track of time, but something was off. She seemed shaken. Later that night, Victoria came to my room, told me someone had approached her at the library, a guy she didn't recognize, said he had a message from a mutual friend, that I needed to back off or things would get worse. Victoria had run, spent hours hiding in different buildings on campus, too scared to come home right away. I was furious. Bella was locked up awaiting trial, but she was still pulling strings, still terrorizing us. I called Detective Walter immediately. He said they'd increase security, look into who might have approached Victoria, but without a clear description or evidence, it was hard to do much. My dad wanted us to move, just pack up and leave town, start fresh somewhere Bella couldn't find us, but my mom pointed out we couldn't run forever, that we needed to see this through, make sure Bella faced consequences, otherwise she'd just keep doing this to other people. I went back to campus to pack up the rest of my stuff from storage. Couldn't stand being there anymore. Too many bad memories. As I was loading boxes into my car, someone called my name. It was Cheryl, Philip's ex. She looked nervous, kept glancing around like someone might be watching. She told me she'd gotten weird messages, someone claiming to be Bella's friend, threatening her if she testified, saying they knew where she lived, where she worked. Cheryl was scared, thinking about backing out. I told her to go to the police. She said she had. They'd taken a report, court, told her to be careful. That was it. This was Bella's game. Even from custody, she was trying to intimidate witnesses, make people too scared to testify. I called Janet. She said it was witness tampering, a serious crime, but they needed proof Bella was behind it. The messages were from anonymous accounts. Could be anyone. I started reaching out to all the potential witnesses. Cynthia had gotten similar messages. So had Maria. Even some of the girls from our dorm floor, all being told to keep quiet or face consequences. But none of the messages could be traced directly to Bella. Her lawyer would claim it was overzealous friends acting without her knowledge. Then I remembered something. During one of our late-night talks, Bella had mentioned her cousin, some guy named Dakota who was really good with computers, always helped her with tech stuff. I wondered if this was one of the people Philip had mentioned. Started searching social media for Dakota Williams. Found them. Computer science major at a state school nearby. I didn't contact them directly. Instead, I gave the information to Detective Walter. Let the professionals handle it. A few days later, Walter called. They'd executed a warrant on Dakota's devices, found evidence they'd been creating anonymous accounts, sending threatening messages, all at Bella's direction through coded letters from jail. That was the break we needed. Dakota flipped immediately, told them everything, how Bella had been running her intimidation campaign from custody, using a code they'd developed years ago. They provided all the letters, the decoded messages, proof that Bella was behind everything. Bella was charged with witness tampering on top of everything else. Her bail was revoked completely. No more house arrest at her parents' mansion. She'd stay locked up until trial. Janet said this would likely add years to her sentence. Finally, some good news. The trial started 2 months later. By then, we had a mountain of evidence. Victoria's testimony was heartbreaking. She spoke clearly about being tricked, about the fear she'd felt locked in that cabin, about not knowing if she'd ever see her family again. Several jurors were crying by the time she finished. Cynthia testified about the summer camp incident. Maria talked about other girls Bella had targeted. Philip detailed how Bella had manipulated him, used his feelings to make him an accomplice. Even Dakota testified as part of their plea deal, explained how Bella had orchestrated everything from jail. Bella's lawyer tried to paint her as a victim, claimed her traumatic childhood had left her unable to form healthy relationships, that she needed treatment, not prison. He brought in expert witnesses to talk about personality disorders and trauma responses, but the jury wasn't buying it. When Bella took the stand, she tried to cry, claimed she never meant for things to go so far, that she just wanted me to understand her pain. But under cross-examination, her mask slipped. Janet got her angry. Bella snapped at her, showed the calculating person underneath the victim act. It was like watching the real Bella emerge. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours, guilty on all counts: kidnapping, false imprisonment, witness tampering, conspiracy. The list went on. Bella stared straight ahead as they read the verdict. No emotion on her face. Her parents sobbed in the gallery. Her mom kept saying, "That's not my daughter," over and over. Sentencing was a month later. The judge gave her 15 years, said she was a danger to society, that her manipulative behavior and lack of remorse meant she needed serious intervention. Bella was led away in shackles. She didn't look at any of us, just kept staring straight ahead. We thought it was over then. Finally, Victoria was doing better in therapy. I'd transferred to a different school to finish my degree. My parents had stopped jumping every time the phone rang. We were healing, moving forward. Then I got another letter. This one was from Bella, from prison. She'd written it in pink pen, the same shade she used to wear. It was an apology. Said she'd been getting treatment, realized how much pain she'd caused, wanted to make amends, asked if I'd be willing to visit, to talk, to maybe find closure. I threw it in the trash, then fished it out and gave it to Detective Walter. He said prisoners were allowed to send letters. As long as they weren't threatening, there was nothing illegal about it. He'd keep it on file though, just in case. More letters came, one a week, all apologizing, all asking for forgiveness, all in that same pink pen. I stopped reading them, just handed them straight to Walter. He said Bella was probably trying to establish a pattern of remorse, maybe angle for early release. Classic manipulation. Victoria graduated high school with honors, gave a speech about overcoming adversity, didn't mention Bella by name but everyone knew. She got into a good college 3 states away, far from all the memories. We helped her move into her dorm. Her roommate seemed nice, normal. Victoria had insisted on a single room though, couldn't blame her. I finished my degree, got a job at a marketing firm, started dating a guy named Jules from my office, told him about Bella on our 3rd date. He didn't run away, said everyone had baggage. His ex had keyed his car and stolen his dog. We bonded over crazy ex stories. It was nice. 5 years passed. The letters from Bella stopped after the 1st year. We heard through the grapevine that she'd been transferred to a different facility, something about an incident with another inmate, manipulating them into attacking someone. Her parents divorced. Her mom moved to Florida. Her dad remarried quickly. Victoria became a doctor, said her experience made her want to help people heal. She specialized in emergency medicine, saved lives every day, still went to therapy once a month, said it helped keep her grounded. She met a nice guy named Marley at her hospital. They got engaged last spring. I was maid of honor at Victoria's wedding. During my speech, I talked about how brave she was, how she'd survived something terrible and come out stronger. I didn't mention Bella. That chapter was closed. We were writing new ones now, better ones. Last week, I got a notification. Bella was up for parole, first time. The victim notification system wanted to know if we'd be attending the hearing, if we wanted to make statements. My parents said we should go, make sure the board knew she was still dangerous. Victoria wasn't sure, said maybe it was time to let go. We went, all of us, sat in that sterile room and watched Bella tell the parole board how reformed she was, how she'd found religion, gotten her degree, helped other inmates. She looked different, older. Her hair was gray at the roots, no pink anywhere. She seemed smaller somehow. When it was our turn to speak, Victoria went first, talked about the impact on her life, the years of therapy, the trust issues, but also about forgiveness. Said she didn't want want Bella released, but she also didn't want to carry hate forever. It was powerful. Several board members were visibly moved. I spoke last, told them about the patterns, the manipulation, the lack of real remorse, how Bella had terrorized multiple people over years, how she'd continued her behavior even from custody, how she was too dangerous to release. I kept it factual, no emotion, just the truth. The board denied parole, said Bella needed more time, more treatment, more evidence of change. She'd be eligible again in 3 years. As they led her away, Bella looked at me, just for a second, and smiled. That same chaotic smile, like she was saying this wasn't over, maybe it never would be. But I didn't care anymore. I had my life. Victoria had hers. We'd survived Bella Williams, thrived despite her, built something good from the ashes of that terrible year. She could smile all she wanted from her cell. She couldn't touch us anymore. We'd won, not by playing her games, but by refusing to play at all. We went out for dinner after the hearing, some little Italian place near the courthouse, laughed about normal things. Victoria's husband told bad jokes. My parents argued about the best way to cook pasta. Jules held my hand under the table. It was perfect. Bella was the past. This was our present, our future, and it was good.